Welcome everyone, and thanks for joining us for this week's The Chatterbox on C3 TV. This week is going to be our first interview with an actual big voice actor, and we reached pretty far for this one. This is a guy that the whole CCC community truly knows very well. Not personally, but definitely by his voice. He's a full-time professional voice actor with about 4 years of experience under his belt, but who only recently in the last year switched to full-time voice acting. He's currently still a colonel in the Army Reserves, and spent most of his life teaching. He was an honor to interview, and he was a great guy to talk to, and definitely somebody I'd like to have in my corner as a friend. So stop listening to me talk, and let's get down to the interview. For your pleasure, Andy Field. So guys, like I promised, we got here Andy Field. Andy Field, this is everybody. Everybody, say hi to Andy Field. So as you guys heard from my introduction, this guy is a juggernaut. He's up and coming, he's pushing forward. A lot of you guys may know him as the voice of Homewood Suites, Virgin Mobile. But I think there's something else that you guys may know him a little bit better by.
Thank you for selecting Exotic Butters.
Yes, that's him. All right, so we got Andy Field here in his booth, drinking his liquefied exotic butters, his super juice. And we're going to talk to Andy about, what he's done in the past, what it took him to get to where he is now, and discuss with him the future of the voiceover world for all you guys out there. Let's start with right now. Andy, who are you? What do you do?
Okay, so I'm Andy Field. I'm a full-time voice actor. I just went full-time less than a year ago in May of 2017. Been doing voice acting since late 2013. Didn't get a paid gig until 14. So when I say I was doing it, that's when I decided to give it a try.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's...
test out the waters, test your chops.
Yeah, get a microphone, just try things out. Got the first paid gig in January of 14, and just started trickling them in slowly over time until I felt comfortable making this my career.
Yeah, it's crazy when you just start off from nothing and you're like, I want to be a voice actor.
Yeah.
I got out of the Navy about maybe almost 2 years ago.
Thanks for your service.
Yeah, and thank you for yours. And by the way, guys, if you didn't know, Andy Field over here, the voice of HandUnit, is also in the Army Reserves as an officer.
28 years now. My Siri calls me Colonel.
Oh. Well, okay then. That's a little bit above where I was working at, but...
Only sometimes. Well, everybody starts, that's the thing. I started as an E1. Yeah, I've hung out with enough sailors to understand some of what you guys say, though. But sailors use different words for everything, like this is a bulkhead and
a
port. Wait, no, a door is a port?
A hatch.
A hatch.
Yeah.
A window is a port.
Well, port and starboard are the left and right sides of the ship.
A window is a porthole.
A porthole? Oh, that's the little ladies that hang out on the pier?
No.
Just kidding.
Well, you were a submariner, so you guys didn't have windows.
No, yeah. We had
windows in the subs. Windows in the subs a bad idea. My dad was a sonar operator, so I have respect for the Navy. So
yeah, it was a fun thing. I don't regret any of my time in, but I'm glad that I'm now transitioning into what I love.
I heard that.
With voiceover, getting started from nothing is crazy because there's a million different people out there who claim to know the truth, who claim, do you want to know the secret of making 6 figures in only 1 year by quitting your career today and becoming a voice actor?
Lord have mercy.
It's like, oh my God.
I want to know that secret.
like that doesn't exist, Like you have, from what we've been talking before this interview even started, a huge varied background of different, talents and skills that you've gained that have helped you get to where you are. And everybody walks a different path. And that's kind of what defined them and what they do, and the interests and the ways that they move within the VO community. Why don't you tell us about you? Start from little Andy on his tricycle.
Okay. Well, I'm from Louisiana. I grew up in a little town in Louisiana called Natchitoches, which is about 20,000 people. Went to school there. Got my bachelor's degree in elementary education at Northwestern State, and was a teacher for years and years. Right at the same time, I went into the National Guard straight out of high school. I was 17 when I went to basic training, and so I kind of followed a dual career path of being a teacher and a soldier for years and years and years, and took breaks to do Army things and got deployed and this and that, and then I went and taught military science at the university, and I ended up moving to Mississippi, and I taught military science at the University of Mississippi, which is where I live now in Oxford, Mississippi, and been here about 12 years. Great town, about 20,000 people, about the same size. But we love our college football.
Oh yeah.
Like a religion. Our town is 20,000 people.
Oh,
Our stadium seats 65,000. And on the big games we'll have 90,000 tailgating. So 30,000 of those don't even come into the stadium. It's absolutely insane. So that's where I live now. Taught military science for a while. While I was doing that, worked on a master's in education. So when I finally got that, I got to teach in the School of Education. So I was a legit professor. They don't give you that title unless you have a doctorate. But I did that for a year, and then I went back to teaching middle school. Did that for like 6 years, and finally this past May of 17, I was able to tell my principal that she was fired, and that I was going to go out and make my own money. And so that's kind of the short of it all. It's much longer than that and less interesting, but that's pretty much it.
Man, that's a lot more than I was thinking here. I'm a little humbled, talking to Professor Colonel Andy Field.
I attribute part of it to ADD, just not knowing what I want to do and
not being
changing
able to,
my mind. I change my
God.
mind not only every 5 minutes, but every couple of years too. So.
That's like me, but it's like ADD, but also trying to be a perfectionist and not wanting to quit anything. So now you got a million things on your plate.
Yeah.
And you're like, how do I deal with all this? You're still doing more stuff too, right? Like I know you're doing some extra work and some other on-screen stuff.
It's funny. So like 3 years ago, I was an extra on NCIS New Orleans. New Orleans is about a 6-hour drive from here. And I was kind of playing with all that, and I was just kind of getting into all these casting sites. And I got the phone call, and they were like, "Do you want to come be an extra on NCIS New Orleans tomorrow?" And I was like, "Oh, this is amazing. This is awesome." Well, I went down there to do it, and it wasn't that amazing. It kind of sucked, actually.
Yeah.
Because you make maybe $80 a day pre-tax if you don't do overtime. And even 3-4 years ago, I thought to myself, even on a voiceover day that I don't make $80, I'm moving myself towards making $80. I'm building a contact. I'm posting something. I'm putting a YouTube video up, something.
Yeah, and if you're in the booth, you're warm. You're eating breakfast and dinner and lunch in your own table.
Well, this is pretty warm. New Orleans in July. In fact,
yeah.
they made me wear a windbreaker because I was a law enforcement agent. They have those little windbreakers with DEA on the back or whatever. Yeah. So there I was walking up and down the Mississippi River in a windbreaker in July. In New Orleans. It was smoke. The food was phenomenal, but they don't pay your lodging or your travel or anything like that.
Yeah.
I got 2 free nights in the casino. The casino gave me 2 free nights. Well, you know why they do that.
Oh yeah.
And they definitely got their 2 nights worth out of me. So pretty much all the money, and I brought my wife. So when I wasn't on set, we were in New Orleans.
Oh yeah.
Going to nice restaurants and stuff. So it was nice. It kind of paid for 3 days as an extra, paid for that. But I told myself I wasn't going to be an extra ever again. Well, a couple of years ago, I was taking some acting lessons from a guy in Little Rock named Warren McCullough. And I told him I was just taking acting lessons to be a better voice actor. And he's like, "Well, you don't want to do anything on camera?" And I was like, "Not really." I said, "I tell you what I would do, Warren. I would pay them $200 if I could go be a zombie on The Walking Dead." Because that's in Atlanta. That's like 6 hours from here, too.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Well, they would probably pay you $100 a day to be an extra on The Walking Dead, but if you landed a small speaking role on Walking Dead, it might be $5,000 a day." And I said, "So Warren, let's talk about how to land speaking roles on camera." So I just kind of got into some of those things, and I need to go get some headshots. I'm playing with that, and I've got an on-camera agent already, and so I'm kind of. But then I met somebody who'd been an extra on The Walking Dead, and he's like, "Dude, just sign up with this casting agency." And so sure enough, I did, and they called me to be a savior on The Walking Dead. That'll be episodes 10 and 13 this season coming up in spring.
That's the one thing I love about the VO community, though, is once you get to know people and start talking and actually open yourself up. These guys are they're so awesome and so friendly and so fun. And there's no competitive market out there like the voiceover community where people would just be like, "Oh, you're my competitor? Well, let me tell you my secrets." It's like,
really. And it's the attitude really is that a rising tide raises all ships. And so it does. I've got friends who are making close to 7 figures or more in voiceover. And I've got friends who are making nothing in voiceover. And we're all just, there are guys who, are in Disney cartoons and stuff like that who just, Jim Cummings was like, "Hey, break a lip." He doesn't want to. Bob Bergen is all over Facebook. The voice of Porky Pig. I mean, he's commented on, "We'll just chat." on Facebook. Yeah. I'm like, Bob Bergen, what?
That's crazy. There's some Facebook groups that I'm on that, you know, these random people will, you know, reply to my comments, and I'm like, oh my God, babe, come here, look at my Facebook. Look at this message me.
When you start to be kind of friendly with people, it's cool because then you meet kids who are a fan of something that your friend is in, and you just like shoot them a Facebook message. Dude, send me a quick custom recording for a little girl named Lily, you know, and it's and you know they'll do the same. Hey, I just met a kid who's just all over Five Nights at Freddy's. Can you video chat us real quick? And that's so fun. Like I got a friend who's in Elena of Avalor on the Disney Channel, and he recorded a thing for a little girl named Lily. And man, it's just awesome. I mean, he just was in his car and threw it together, a quick little video. Yeah. Hello, Lily, in his character voice. I don't know. We were telling war stories there for. We were talking about voiceover and CCC and how everybody's attitude is great. And
it's amazing because everyone's so friendly. There you go. But when I started out and I got out, I was like, what do I want to do? I want to be a voice actor. Okay, so what do I do here? Well, let's friggin' look at YouTube. So there's all these things on YouTube telling you what to do, mic reviews, you know, equipment to get. And then people, you know, all these other voice actors who are like, I make 6 figures, let's do coaching, you know, and they start, you know, basically not doing as much voiceover, teaching the ways of becoming a voice talent.
Yeah.
You know,
and they say, I made 6 figures last year, and you think to yourself, well, I bet 30 or 40,000 of that was from your classes.
Yeah. I mean, the beautiful thing about voiceover, too, is, like we said, everybody is so willing to help out each other because they know everybody is different. I can probably do a close, you know, impression of your natural voice, but that's not going to make me you. That's not going to give me the same reads that you're putting out, you know. Yeah. Everybody's putting out a different read that they're being, you know, judged and listened to by, and, you know, you can't really compare that to the next person for whether or not you're going to get a role or, you know, lose a role of this up-and-coming star.
Well, I tell you, while I was teaching, I'll tell you how I started. This is always funny. So I set up in a walk-in closet, which is actually pretty good because there's clothes on both sides absorbing sound. And I hung up a twin piece of mattress foam in front of me, and then I draped one behind me between the 2 hanging bars with some clips. And I had a little TV tray with my work laptop, and I didn't even know how to set up a microphone. So I had a microphone from way back in college. I was a drummer in a band, and I had an SM57 for my vocal mics. This is by Shure. The SM57 is a great workhorse if you're a musician. You know, they're great for drums. They're great for vocals. They're great for micing up an acoustic guitar. They're just great. Well, I had it. It's been sitting in a drawer forever, and then I had the XLR cable. But I'm like, how do you hook up an XLR cable to your computer? Well, I look up, and you got to get this little interface or preamp or whatever. So I order one, and I get it all hooked up, and I say, okay, with this, I'm going to pay for voices.com. Because the first month was like $10, and then it was $40 a month after that. Yeah. And I said, okay, I don't even know if I should be putting $10 into this, but I'm going to buy this little box for $40 or $50. I'll plug it in, I'll spend my $10, and I'll start auditioning for voices.com.
What would you say was your first that first interface you got?
Oh, I don't even remember. It was so cheap, but it doesn't matter because so I got on voices.com, and dude, I was clearing it out. I was doing 20 or 30 auditions every night. I was up till 1 in the morning doing all those auditions. It took me maybe 2 weeks to realize that interface didn't work with a Mac. And that I was actually just recording through the built-in mic on the computer. I mean, I sound like I was in a tin can. I didn't know. You know, my headphones were some $10 headphones from somewhere. You know, so I'm just recording. So I dug around. I looked at some other, and I finally just bit the bullet and bought like a $100 USB mic used. It was an AT2020. Great mic.
Oh yeah, I use Audio-Technicas right now exclusively.
I used it for 3 years, and recorded my demo on it, recorded the Homewood Suites commercial on it, recorded Five Nights at Freddy's Sister Location on it. I mean, it's a good mic. It's not as good as this mic, but this is my big boy mic that I just upgraded to about a year ago. So,
and what is that?
This is the Sennheiser MKH 416. Yeah, I'm using an Apogee 1 right now, which I think is USB powered. So. So only a sailor is going to sit here and talk in this interview about electromagnetic interference. Soldiers are just going, I don't know. I think it just sounds good.
So what kind of voiceover do you do? What kind of stuff have you done? I know you do commercial and character work, but
and you know, character is less. I've just had a couple of notable characters. So I started out.
Oh yeah, that's a meat and potatoes.
Just doing anything. The first paid gig I ever got was zombie voices for the video game Contagion, and it wasn't you know, I didn't know anything about rates or anything like that. It wasn't great money. I made $90 out of that, which some people listening to this are going, holy crap, $90. I would do almost anything for $90. But
yeah.
And at the time I was the same way. I mean, but it was a good hour's worth of recording of zombie voices. I mean, there's this whole spreadsheet of, you know, we need 5 different sounds between 1/2 and 1 second long of zombie getting shot in the chest. You know, and we need, you know, 3 different sounds between 1 and 1.5 seconds long of zombie standing still. You know, just all. I mean, I recorded 2 or 3 pages of Excel spreadsheet of these things. You know, of just, and it was all Walking Dead stuff.
Yeah, I did something like that for a video game.
So I did that, and then my second gig was, and I may be getting these reversed because they were pretty close to each other. I made $175, and it was a 17-minute e-learning narration on how to fill out IRS Form I-9.
Oh, my God.
It was riveting. I mean, it was right. And then that guy hired me like 2 or 3 times over the next few months. And so I was like, man, every month I'm making like $150, $200. This is not, as a school teacher, that's significant supplement to your income, $150, $200 a month. And at the time I was running a tutoring business too, and that was just beating me and my wife down. And so within a year, we started to realize I can make as much money on voiceover as we're making over here on the side in this tutoring business. In my little town, it's pretty expensive. So if you're a teacher and you don't have a side hustle or your spouse doesn't work, you're poor.
Yeah.
So within about a year, we were able to close the tutoring business, which was, we loved the kids, but man, it's just, my wife was pretty much a professional bill collector, just trying to call people and say, hey, you hadn't paid this month. And we had like 40 students coming to that thing. So, and it just built and built and built. So a lot of e-learning, corporate narrations, commercials here and there, picked up some agents along the way and got some commercial auditions that way. So I got the Virgin Mobile commercial through an agent. And then while I had to go to a studio in Little Rock, Arkansas to record it because I was on vacation in Missouri. And then I got on that studio's roster, and that studio contacted me for the Homewood Suites commercial. So it's kind of neat how the whole networking goes. And that one was cool. The Homewood Suites one was cool because they're the kind of client that later calls you and says, oh, we decided to run it on NBC for a night, so we're sending you another check.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I love that. Man, I love when they pay you for work you've already done. That's incredible, you know?
Yeah.
They hadn't called me in a long time about that. I wish they would call me back and say, hey, we're going to run it one more night. It was like $2,500. $2,500 for one night on NBC.
What?
I know, right?
Man, that's what I'm getting for 6 months of usage.
Well, and that's for most of it. But, you know, that's so I had no idea what the major networks were like. Because the Virgin Mobile commercial only ran on like a lot of the major cable networks like Food Network and you know, AMC and ABC Family and that kind of stuff. It didn't run on any of the big ones. So, I mean, I can't imagine landing a commercial for the Super Bowl or something like that.
Damn, yeah, I'll be $10,000 starting, maybe 40.
Oh, it's got to be up around 40. It's, I don't know. And it's, a lot of those are celebrity voices. You know, Kiefer Sutherland is, you know,
Patrick Warburton.
You know, I think John Cusack is the guy now that says, find new roads. That's all he says. Savage, Fred Savage.
Yes. Now he's doing all those, buy a Honda today.
Yeah, he gets a lot of those.
Dealer. And I'm like,
and then the guy from The Office, Krasinski, John Krasinski gets a ton.
Yeah.
He's the insurance guy.
I didn't know he was doing those. I started seeing that in casting specs, John Krasinski and I'm like, oh, I didn't know he's doing
Everybody wants him, man.
Oh, yeah. That's one of the things I was saying, too. If anybody's ever told you they don't want to do voiceover, they're lying.
And I'll tell you who nails that everyday guy, John Krasinski sound is Joe Zija. I don't know if you're hooked up with him on social media, but Joe, I contacted Joe right when I started, and he was about 10 months ahead of me. He had just gotten out of the Air Force and was working in the corporate world and had just gone to half-time in his job instead of full-time. And just in those last 3 or 4 years, Joe just went boom, 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 full-time, moved to L.A., blah, 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 blah. I mean, he is killing it.
Yeah, I made some connections, too, with some of the things I've been doing. And some of these guys that I got to meet, you know, who are on the same career path, the same exact starting line as me, you know, they're living in LA now. They made the move, and they're with, you know, Atlas Talent. They're with, you know, a lot of the other, you know, the people that I dream of being with. They're pushing pretty hard too and working their ass off. And I'm like, damn,
Yeah.
I gotta get out.
And
of
I have
Shelton.
no desire to move to LA. I may move to LA one day.
I mean, I don't know. I've talked with that by my wife, but I like being a little cold and being able to put on a jacket. And I don't like.
I don't particularly like that. I went to LA for the first time back in October. I was a guest at LA Comic Con, Stan Lee's LA Comic Con, and it was awesome.
Awesome, yeah.
But I don't know that my wife and I really. It's awful big, and it's awful LA-ish, and it's awful. It's just LA. There were some really awesome things about it, and if you want to get into, if you want to voice animation, you got to move to LA if you want to voice animation on any scale. But our last kid's about to be out of the house. Maybe we'd move there for some time or something. I don't know.
Well, I had a 9-month-old, so now I'm like right at the other end of that. So I'm like, let's just stay here for a couple of years.
I had a big LA agent at one point, and we both just kind of let each other go at the same time. I wasn't in the union and I didn't live in LA, and I was like, why did these guys even sign me anyway? But one thing is, if you're kind of building yourself up in voiceover, is you really can't compare yourself to anybody. I was in my 40s and had 3 kids and 3 jobs, and when somebody says I've made enough money to move to LA, or I've made enough money to go full time, you just got to take that for what it is. If a 25-year-old tells you, I just went full-time voiceover, well, what the heck does that mean? Does that mean you live in your mom's basement and you make $1,000 a month? That's enough for full-time if you're 25 and you live in your mom's basement. If you're 46 and you got 3 kids and you say, I went full-time, that's...
Yeah.
To pay your bills as a grown person, I pay insurance on 5 cars. I got 3 kids and they all drive. And my wife and I mean, so when I say I went full time, I had to get to a point where I was making more than a school teacher makes, a veteran school teacher, because I had like 17 years and the master's degree and all that. So I had to get to a point where full time meant I could pay a significant amount. We didn't say, hey, let's go full time voiceover. Let's go live in a tent in the desert while you do it. Yeah. It's let's stay in the house we're in. Let's stay in the cars we're in. Our kids are going to college. Everybody's got an iPhone. We didn't want to significantly cut back on our lifestyle to do that. Yeah. And some people do. Some people are like, we were 35, our kids were in kindergarten, and we just moved into the cheapest place we could find. We moved into a mobile home. We got rid of 3 cars. Blah blah blah.
No, I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that. I had to get. I moved 2 hours away from where we were living before, just so I could get a house that I didn't have to, downscale my lifestyle for. Yeah.
And I talk to people about LA all the time about how much they're paying for rent and what they're living in and what I'm paying for my note on a property that I'm going to own one day. And it's I knew somebody was paying like $2,500 a month rent for a 2-bedroom apartment in downtown LA. I was like, dude, I'm paying way less than that to own
even
2,700 square foot house.
That's a good price for that guy, but
so we were talking about something. We were talking about my jobs and all that. So eventually, just through all these audition channels, agents, and the pay-to-play sites, and building yourself up on the studios and stuff, I got the 5 Nights at Freddy's audition, and it was on a pay-to-play site.
Oh, it was? Oh,
believe it or not. And I've had some people. He got some cheap talent. No, he offered well above scale for that. I mean, it was a legit. One of the better things I've ever seen come across those things. So there were 121 auditions for HandUnit, and I got it.
That's
right.
That's saying a lot. And a lot of these auditions I'm doing, it's like 40, 50 at most. Sometimes if they're over 2,000, you'll get like 80.
Well, you put a video game job up and you put a good rate on it.
Oh yeah.
And everybody auditions for it. When you put up...
As a voice actor, once you become full-time, you start doing all the stuff, and you realize, like, wow, 90% of this work is commercial. Maybe more. Maybe 95% of it's all commercial, and the rest of it, you get thrown a bone here and there to actually, feel like an actor. That's the fun part.
Yeah. And there's some acting in e-learning, and there's some acting in commercial work and stuff like that too, but it's not the same kind. Whenever you dreamed of being a voice actor, you really dreamed of character work. You wanted to do voices. I pretty much just do mine.
That's my personal branded inspirational quote is, you are your best impression. So, never don't try to fake it, and you always be good.
Like, you've got this great millennial sounding voice, and so you could be anybody on the Disney Channel. Anybody.
That's the only thing I marketed myself as, because there was a lot of promo stuff out there that I was trying to do, like introducing Andy Field, but right now I'm a little under the weather, so that's not going to work out. But I realized.
But you could do promos on Disney Channel all day long. Coming up next on Sweet Life of Zach and Cody.
Coming up next, take a listen. Here we have. Get ready. Stuff like that. My natural,
Saturday morning on Kids Discovery. And see, I have to fight to get to that sound.
I'm almost 30 with a bigger beard than you, and I'm like, I wish my voice reflected that.
So a lot of people in the Five Nights at Freddy's world asked me if I did the angsty teen voice, and I didn't. That dude's bigger than me and bald with a beard, and he did the So your voice is your voice, whatever it is. I'm 46, and so I always feel like I should audition for 40s to 60s, for middle-aged, for senior voices, and really it turns out my voice reads much better for 30s, late 20s, because I'm not the voice of God. I'm not deep. And I'll audition for voice of God, but I got to fight to get down to that thing. I got to lean into the mic and go deep, and that's not me. But you're right when we're talking about the characters, man. I know voice actors who just sat around on the pay-to-plays and only auditioned for video games and animation.
Yeah, but that gives you about 5 minutes of work, and then you're done.
They would set their email for, let me know every time a pay-to-play audition comes up for a video game. Well, a lot of the video games on the pay-to-play pay $100.
Yeah.
Like Avengers Academy. Man, I got so many friends that are in Avengers Academy because there's like, I don't know. There's like 60 voice actors in Avengers Academy.
Yeah, and they keep always casting more. Those mobile games like that have so many.
And I'm jealous. I want to be in it because like 3 or 4 of my Five Nights at Freddy's castmates are in it, and now they're at the point where they're casting these like minuscule, minor
3 lines,
Marvel characters. It's like I can't remember who all they are, but like Kellen Goff plays Bruce Banner, Chris McCullough plays Hank Pym, which is Ant-Man. Yeah. Heather Masters is Spider-Gwen. I think Julie Shields got one of them. I can't even remember who else is in there. And I just want to be in Avengers Academy, but it only paid like $100 or $110. It was really, really low for a video game, especially a video game that's kind of run by Marvel. And John Cena is in it. John Cena plays the Hulk. I mean, there's some big names in Avengers Academy. But anyway,
I wonder what his pay scale is for that.
It wasn't 100.
No, for sure.
It was whatever SAG asked for that plus.
So for any of you guys out there who don't know exactly the difference between union and non-union, being union just means that you're part of the union, SAG-AFTRA, or was it ACTRA in Canada, and there's a couple more. There's a union for basically anything, for music, for theater, for stuntman. Everybody's got a union. But to be in the union, you have to be eligible for the union roles. You have to get those big roles. You have to get written in as a Taft-Hartley, basically saying you're not union, but you're going to work with a union project and get a union credit and become eligible and all that other stuff. There's a bunch of stuff. It's all, pretty detailed if you want to look it up. Yeah, if you want to look it up for yourself, go ahead. But the only difference is basically if you're non-union, you have a lot more flexibility in what you do, but you don't have those safety nets, the controls that the union does for pay, which basically means union roles pay a lot more, but they're not going to be as open to people who aren't, doing it full time in LA or New York. And you know what? It's all personal preference too. Like I keep saying that I wouldn't mind landing a union role. I wouldn't mind getting a couple, of the union exception contracts, I think for extra work, where you get 3. I wouldn't mind being eligible, but living out in the Seattle market and stuff and doing stuff with the way I do, non-union gives you a lot more flexibility. And there's still a lot of, as we know from, how you've been doing, there's a lot of good non-union roles out there and a lot of good work for that. And,
and there's we can kind of branch off into this too. There's I say little known. There's a clause in there where you can become a financial core member of the union that's called FICOR. And basically you become a dues-paying non-member, so you're eligible for all the benefits of being a member of the union, but you're not eligible to participate in union business like voting and stuff like that. And that exists. That has to exist legally for people who you can't legally be excluded from a union. But you can't be forced to participate in something that you disagree with politically. So, for example, Charlton Heston is probably he's deceased now, was one of the most well-known FICOR participants in the union. Charlton Heston was a well-known conservative, so you can already he's president of the NRA. So, as an actor, as an actor. If you don't know who Charlton Heston is, he was the guy in Planet of the Apes. His best known line is, "Get your paws off me, you damn dirty apes," or something like that. So he was a FICOR. So he was like pariah in Hollywood. People just hated him. All the liberals in Hollywood hate this conservative actor who's decided to be FICOR. And so they say it's the kiss of death. You're not going to be invited to a lot of union jobs or stuff like that, but you could still do union and non-union work if you're a FICOR member of the union. And I find a lot of voice actors are doing it. And I had an agent, I was with DPN in LA for a while, and my agent there said, "Oh no, it's the kiss of death." And then like a year later, we were talking about it. It's like, you know what? I got like 3 or 4 guys on my roster who've done it, and it hasn't been the kiss of death. So
DPN is pretty reputable. That's a big one.
Dude, I had no business on their roster at that point. I'd look at my name on the website next to, well, here I'm talking to the CCC people, next to Tara Strong and E.G. Daily, Scott Rummel, the voice of Aquaman, but more importantly, Scott Rummel, like the voice of like 15 different Disney trailers.
Yeah.
You know, The Lion King, that's Scott Rummel. And I'm just like, what? You know, and I'm like, what am I doing on this page? But I am about to go union, and I'll start seeking out a union agent because I get auditions for union. Yeah, and that's the deal. You go to LA, you go union, you start getting some union gigs, and you got to remember, you know, whereas you can live really, really, really comfortable in Mississippi on $100,000 a year, in LA, you're struggling to make $100,000, and that's still not a good living. Like I said, 2-bedroom apartment downtown, $2,500. What's that? That's $30,000 a year for your rent.
I was looking at Studio City the other a few months ago. I don't know why I decided to just say, hey, let's Zillow Studio City in LA, and it was like average rental costs $4,500 and average purchase cost $2.5 million. I'm like, oh my god. The
life of a voice actor in LA isn't quite as glamorous as it sounds. Whereas I do every one of my auditions from home here.
Oh, yeah.
They're having to travel to those auditions. So you may get 3 done a day on a good day.
But that's 8 hours of driving through LA traffic. And
yeah, you had to go to, or the train or whatever. So like John Bailey, the voice of Honest Trailers, just moved there, and I went and visited him. Well, man, I had to take the train out way past Hollywood to go see John. And then he drove me in later when the traffic wasn't bad. It drove me back into town. But somebody like John is booking enough gigs where...
Oh, yeah.
Life is good. Yeah, he told me a gay. I can't say what he did, but it was big. But anyway, you know, so guys move out there and they do fine. Michael Schwabe's a friend of mine from Nashville who just moved there, and because he moved there, he got signed with CESD, which is another big one like DPN. Yeah. And Michael's gonna just kill it. Michael is he's freaking phenomenal. So he's gonna be amazing. But he's got that great deep voice, and he sings well, bass also. And Michael did the casting for the video game Nelo that I was in last year. It's out in early release on Steam right now. So if you want to buy Nelo and give them feedback on how to make the game better, that's what early release is for, I think. The indie company that did Nelo is called Magic and Mirrors. It's just a married couple. It's just a 2-person operation. And they've just put their life into it. And when you look at that game and look at the trailers, you're like, wow, that was a 2-person indie company. That thing looks like something that ought to be on Xbox.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of like 2 4-man teams that have been working for a few years, you know. Or like out in Seattle, indie video games are huge because you got these big companies like Microsoft, Amazon that are working out of here that have just an insane amount of developers and designers and coders and stuff that do this, you know, that work there as their full-time job, but on the side they have this little baby studio that they're, you know, cherishing and building up from the ground up, trying to make something good about it with them and their friends and stuff, and they're making some pretty good stuff out there. So I would say 90% of my character work that I've done that's been paying has all been through indie video games.
Yeah, it's a real geek-heavy town. I mean, you got Boeing there. I mean, you've got all those companies. You got the Navy there, and plus it's just a big city, so it's going to attract tons of that anyway. And so, yeah, you're right. It's a great place for that. But yeah, a lot of my character work, and I don't do a lot of character work because I just haven't built that client base up yet. You know, I did that video game. Every now and then there'd be a commercial where they say we want, you know, like I did a commercial where they said we would like a Labrador Retriever who's oblivious to everyone else's issues, right? Because if you know dogs, that's what labs are like. They're like, hey, you know, I have a lab, and when I do my lab's voice, I'm always like, dope-be-dope-be-dope. Hey, what's going on? You know, I got a rubber hot dog. Will you throw it? You know, that kind of stuff. And so, and my lab has a Southern accent. And so when I did that lab, I said, okay, oblivious. I'm just going to imitate like my neighbors here in Mississippi. You know, just like, oh man, what's going on, man? Almost a Boomhauer kind of, you know, what's up? And so, you know, it was like the main dog has problems, and this dog's like, oh man, that sucks. Do you want to go play fetch? And say, oh man, that sucks. You want to go get a drink? I know a great place with real clean toilets. You know. Well, so I got the gig auditioning very Southern, and then when I got the gig, they were like, "We'd like you to tone the Southern down because we don't want to offend Southern customers." And I said, "Man, you're not going to offend anybody with this character. This one's great." Well, in fact, you may get more business out of that.
I did a dog for Petco, and I had to stay kind of true to my natural, you know, hey. So I was just like,
yeah,
I don't want to talk bad about my owner. You know, it was just kind of casual. Trying to stay in my wheelhouse, and that's kind of what you get cast for the most is not just what sounds good, but what is naturally what's the word, sincere and real.
Yeah,
you know,
authentic.
Yeah, authentic. There we go. That's what I was.
Yeah, if you listen to the main dog in that commercial, that's Jordan Reynolds, and Jordan was in Colorado with his live-in partner Mara. And they're both pro voice actors, and they're both just studs in the voiceover world. And they both moved to L.A. and have both signed with 2 different big agencies. But if you listen to that, you're right. There's no real character in it. It's Jordan.
Yeah.
But let me tell you a story about Jordan. This is one of the coolest things. Jordan got a role as a pirate for something, right? And, you know, every voice actor wants to be, arg, matey, you know, the pirate role. Just a regular. Well, it was for a cruise line. And so then they said, well, we want to have a whole steampunk pirate-themed cruise, and we want you to come and greet all the passengers and walk around in costume as the pirate. And so he had posted online, what do I even charge for that?
Oh, yeah. Right? I would charge a lot.
Well, half of us were like, I would charge 2 free cruises. That's it. And so he and Mara got to go on the cruise, and I think he charged us. You know, I'd certainly for a week of my time charge several $1,000s.
Oh yeah.
Because you're not, you know, you're not an on-camera actor there, but you're an in-person. I don't know.
You're staying in character for a long time.
Well, but I'm sure you're off too. I mean, you may do 8 hours a day of work, and then you go hang out at the pool and play shuffleboard or whatever it is you do on cruises. I've never been on a cruise, but
I was on a cruise when I was young, and I don't remember much, but, you know, a lot of room service. And then I remember, here's a little random funny story. Me and my little sister were bored, so we went on the elevator. There's like a 4-story elevator. And we just said, what floor are you going to, sir? And they would say, 3rd floor. So we just go, all the buttons all the way down. We'll get there. And we just did that for about an hour just to see people's, you know, reactions until someone told on us. And
like that scene in Elf, it's like a Christmas tree.
Yeah.
So anyhow, that's you know, I land a few character gigs here and there, and you know, I'm building those character chops. And I audition. I'm on the rosters and stuff. I'm on the roster for the company that does Paladins. And is it Smite? No, I don't even remember Okra, Okratron.
Down in Texas, right?
Yeah, I get a lot of auditions for them and stuff.
They do Borderlands too, actually.
Yeah, and I met the voice of the little computer in Borderlands. What's his name?
Hi, everybody.
I met Claptrap at my very first con ever last January. And then Julie Shields, who's in Five Nights at Freddy's, she plays the computer voice in the vents. Motion trigger activated. That's her. And she's a computer voice. And I mean, I'll like watch game demos and go, Julie, was that you in this game? And she's always in them. But her husband was involved in, he's one of the developers on Borderlands too, I believe. And so he's a developer there in Dallas as well. So, and then Julie's on with all of those companies. If you want to do anime, you got to go to L.
Yes. I didn't realize how much stuff was out of Texas for animation or for anime and video games.
I think what's happening, you got to have the right gear to do dubbing. You can't dub from your house.
Oh yeah, because you need the sequencer that has the beep, beep, beep.
Right.
You know, it's like
and so those places have those dubbing
animation ADR. That's what I was trying to think of.
All that stuff. So Funimation has that stuff, and some studios in LA have that, but you can't dub from home.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of Funimation, did you hear about the little thing they did? They did a little competition for amateurs. You know.
Now voice this.
Yeah. Did you hear about that?
Well, Chuck Huber and I are friends, and Chuck ran that, and so So let me go ahead and plug this now. So Chuck teaches a voiceover masterclass, and I've been substitute teaching for him in that. And so then Chuck asked me to teach a voiceover basics class, and that starts next week. And so Chuck broadcast that out on the Now Voice This contest. So I've just been getting emails left and right. So I'm only going to take 25 students. But if you're listening to this and you want to get in on that class and it's not full yet, then my email address is andyfieldvoiceover@gmail.com. That's not my real email address, but that's the email address for that. andyfieldvoiceover@gmail.com.
We'll have all that stuff in the description below, all the links and everything down there.
Awesome. And I'll probably teach that class 3 times a year. So if you miss it, it's about an 18-week class. There's a little bit of money involved. You got to pay to register and pay to be in the class, but it's not a backbreaker. I've had several people just pay for the whole class up front instead of paying tuition monthly.
Yeah.
Can I go ahead and say what's in the class?
Oh, yeah.
All this stuff. Okay, so we'll talk about the basics of setting up your home studio and your initial basic recording techniques, some voiceover training, some techniques in different kinds of reads, not just character reads, but commercial reads and all that. We'll talk about what it takes to make a demo reel and what do you need to put into that. We'll talk about how to find work and how to market yourself, where the free work is, and we'll mention CCC. We'll talk about agents and unions and when you need to kind of go there, or if you need to go there. I've had a lot of people email me and say, look, I just want to take your class and figure out how to get an agent. And I'm going to tell you, I got like 13 agents now. They're like 1% of my income. So we'll dispel some of that. We'll talk about some advanced home studio building. How do we start? What should I be recording in first? And then where do I want to get? And this room right here is where you want to get. This thing's amazing. And then I have a couple guest speakers. I'm going to try to get Tim Tippett, who's the voiceover tech guru, to come in and talk about the technology of recording. And I've got a couple of actor friends who I think will come in. We'll talk about how to audition, what are the processes for that, the techniques for that. And then we'll even talk about how to run a voiceover business. So once you finally start making a little bit of money, how do you do that? And then there's some class projects and stuff. And so everybody in the class will always be, every week people will be presenting and giving each other feedback and stuff like that, which is what you got in for anyway. I mean,
you said business, and now I'm thinking, it's tax time.
Yeah, I know, right?
Man.
And this is my first year full time, and I'm not an LLC yet, and I'm not really even sure how to do all this. TurboTax is not,
I got a lot of PayPal invoices I got to go through.
Dude, I love TurboTax. I've used it for like 12 years now, and I'm going to plug it, and I'm going to badmouth H&R Block's free software. And years ago, the Army would give you free TurboTax.
Oh yeah,
and so I would get it. I think the Navy too. If you were in the military, you got free TurboTax, and I did it like 3 years in a row. And it's awesome because you get in this year, and all your stuff is already saved from last year. Are these still your kids? Are you still working here? Are you going to import a W-2 from this employer again? It's bang, 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 and it's all easy.
Yeah, but and then who has ever remembered that pin you have to sign with the last year before? You have to remember the pin from last year. I've never remembered.
But I'm okay doing all that. Yeah. Well, the new Five Nights at Freddy's game just came out, so that's exciing.
The Pizzeria Simulator.
Yeah, it was nuts.
Is it a mobile game or is that on PC?
It's out on Steam, so it's PC. And he went mobile with Sister. Let's see, Sister Location came out in October of 16, and it went mobile in January of 17. So I would imagine if it can go mobile, that it will. Because we're all Apple in this house, and so my kids didn't get to play Sister Location until January of 17. And my middle daughter Corinne is the gamer, if there is any in the family, and she beat it in like a weekend. So those of you who played Sister Location and still can't get past night 4, I can't even get past night 2 on the mobile game. She beat it in a weekend. So
I know what it's about. I've seen a lot of the videos. There's millions of videos on it around from all the streamers and all the the fan fictions, all the different stuff. But I've never actually gotten a solid playthrough. And hey, and you guys out there that want to culture me up and give me a free register key, go ahead. I'm not opposed to that.
They're out there. But I'll tell you, it's so after 6 games, not counting FNAF World, which is the 7th game, but kind of is not in line with the calendar of the other games, or with the canon. I think we've brought the lore to a close. I think anybody that's listening to this, I know nothing more than anyone else. In fact, I usually know less because I'm not following the lore as closely. But I know that MatPat came out with a big fan theory just before this game came out, and Scott Cawthon got online and said he's real close. He's real close. Not everything he said is right, But man, MatPat hit some really points that just blew my mind in the little bit that I know about the lore. And then Scott released this game, which looked on the surface to be this little goofy, cheesy. He just kind of put out a thing online that said, hey, I can't let a whole year go by without releasing a game. And, you know, and so he had this cheesy looking 80s graphics, 8-bit pizzeria simulator. And everybody's like, okay, well, I'll play it. Well, I knew that it was probably going to be bigger than that because I'd already recorded the lines for it all the way back I think August or September. I got a video on my YouTube channel of me recording those lines, and I even say in the video, today is this, but you'll be watching this much later because I can't release this until the game comes out.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. That concludes part 1 of this interview. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe below to stay tuned and be alerted when the next part of the interview is uploaded soon. Also, don't forget to watch out for more videos coming out of C3 TV. We've got a lot of producers lined up making some awesome content for you guys to listen to. Also, don't forget to check out the links below in the description to see all the stuff that we've been talking about throughout the video. So again guys, thanks for watching, and don't forget to cast a wide net with CCC.